Hello and welcome back to the Top 10 Countdown for the 2012 Games of the Year. This is Zips from Total Gaming Network, and we're just going to jump right on into it. Number 5, Halo 4. Here's a game that wasn't even a blip on my radar when I started this list. Why? Well, at the time I hadn't played Halo 4 at all. Having only received the game for Christmas, and knowing full well that I wouldn't get this list up until the early part of 2013, I figured I'd owed it to myself to see if Halo 4 was a worthy contender for the top 10. Obviously, it is. 343 Industries has taken the reins from Bungie and has crafted what is quite possibly the most visually stunning, enjoyable, and polished Halo experiences ever. The single player is as challenging as it is enjoyable. Questions are answered as often as new questions are raised concerning the Halo universe. Complete with a very enjoyable separate co-op mode, Spartan Ops, which continues to receive a steady stream of free content updates, the entire package is ultimately rounded out by some of the best competitive multiplayer to grace the series since Halo 2. Visually stunning at times, Halo 4 is quite possibly the best looking game I've played on this console generation. While it may not look like much to those who max out settings on PC games, Halo 4 manages to push the graphical boundaries on the perpetually aging Xbox 360. Thankfully, the beauty is not hindered by graphical slowdown, at least while playing the single player campaign. Old and new fans of the series should definitely check out Halo 4. It's reportedly the start of an all-new trilogy from Master Chief and company, and it's certainly one you won't want to miss out on. Number 4, Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 is a bit of a double-edged sword here. On one hand, the open-world style gameplay is some of the best out there. With a variety of activities to do, you're never really short on things to experience, animals to skin, items to craft, and outposts to blow up. The story is a bit tongue-in-cheek, oftentimes poking fun at its own absurdity, and never really takes itself too seriously, which fits in perfectly with some of the over-the-top action sequences in the game. A map editor is included, which will certainly provide for a small bit of fun trying out some of the crazy concoctions that other users come up with. Both the game's competitive multiplayer and co-op modes make use of a single leveling system, ensuring that fans of one are not put at much of a disadvantage when they finally decide to give the other multiplayer mode a try. Speaking of co-op, fans of the Left 4 Dead series will probably enjoy the ever-living hell out of Far Cry 3's co-op mode. 4 players make their way through a separate story from the single-player story, utilizing a variety of weapons, custom upgrades, and more to make it out alive. There are even a few meta games within the co-op mode that places the 4 players against one another in a small competition to get a bit of bonus experience. Unfortunately, while the jungle environments and most everything else about the game are top-notch, it does fall a little bit short of the mark for being our number 1 title. After completing the lengthy story, you're really only left with a few fairly repetitious side quests that involve hunting animals with specified weapons or taking out a specific human target. Enemies become few and far between once a number of the game's outposts are liberated, leaving the endgame feeling a little boring. Fortunately, this doesn't become too big of an issue when progressing through the story, which features intense gunfights, parachuting from radio towers, and finding out about the true definition of insanity. Far Cry 3 shows you what it's like to be both the hunted and the hunter, and is easily one of the best games of 2013, even with those minor complaints. Number 3, Dear Esther. Released early in 2012 by the Chinese Room, Dear Esther is less about gameplay and more about the experience. Many people wouldn't even consider Dear Esther a game, which I won't really argue with. However, I would go so far as to say that Dear Esther is as much of a game as something like Heavy Rain is. It's more about the experience. The sights, the sounds, the story. It's about taking it all in and trying to piece together the mystery of how the narrator's life and Esther's life fit together. It's about trying to understand the mysteries of the island itself. It's about wondering if that figure you saw in the distance was a ghost, or just a figment of your imagination. I don't normally enjoy games that are merely about the journey, but this is a major exception. Having played through the game multiple times after its release, you begin to notice that the story and narration are always a little bit different than the time before. You always discover new bits that you may not have noticed the first time through. Visually, the game is the best looking title ever created on Valve's Source engine. The entire environment is beautiful, while at the same time being subtly foreboding. A feeling you just can't place your finger on, but one that will gnaw at the back of your mind for the entire journey. I know this word gets tossed around a lot, but the game just oozes atmosphere. Along with the visuals, the game's soundtrack just works perfectly throughout, and is probably one of my favorite game soundtracks of the past year. With the Chinese Room and Dan Pinchbeck helping to co-develop the next Amnesia title, Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs, The experience I had with Dear Esther gives me great hope that the game will be even more psychologically jarring than Amnesia: The Dark Descent was. Priced at just $10 on Steam, Dear Esther is a title that should be in almost everyone's collection. Number 2. The Walking Dead. Wow, where to begin with The Walking Dead? First off, if you haven't played this game yet, you're a terrible person and you need to go play it immediately. I won't even be mad if you just stop listening to this right now if it means you're going to go pick up the game for the PC, the consoles, mobile devices, whatever. Just go ahead, go buy it, go play it, come back to this later. Again, much like with Dear Esther, The Walking Dead is less about the gameplay as it is about the experience, the emotion, the feeling that you hold the fate of a group of people in your hands. Spanning 5 episodes, each episode is a roller coaster of emotion. Tough choices will constantly have to be made, and when I say tough, I mean it. There are some very difficult decisions that you, as Lee, will have to make. We're actually talking about life and death levels of difficulty here. While the gameplay largely consists of moving a character around a screen, talking to people, solving a variety of puzzles, or tapping a button, The Walking Dead still remains one of the best games you could possibly play. Telltale Games has set the bar exceptionally high here, outdoing all of their old works with a story that will, at times, just rip out your heart and leave you with tears in your eyes. You become so emotionally invested in Lee and Clementine that it's very possible that by the end of the story you will cry. I won't lie, I shed a few tears once all was said and done. It's not often that a game or movie or book for that matter is so well written that I become so emotionally invested. While the game does portray an illusion of choice, the outcomes are largely all predetermined by the developers. Again, this is more about the journey, so if you think you screwed something up, chances are it may not have entirely been up to you, and I'm alright with that. Unless you're comparing notes with friends or the internet at large, you won't have any idea that things went down precisely as they were supposed to, regardless of the choices you made. Even if you aren't a fan of the Walking Dead comic series or the television show of the same name, you will more than likely enjoy this game. The stories are not tied to one another aside from a few crossover special character appearances, so enjoying one will not spoil the others. The Walking Dead is one of the games where I eagerly played through each new episode the moment it was released. Not something I normally do. Pick it up, take your time, and enjoy the ride. Number 1. Borderlands II. I thought long and hard about this number 1 choice here. For the longest time, I had The Walking Dead sitting at number 1, only to realize that when it comes to being a complete package, there was no contest. Borderlands 2 offers up a thrilling single-player experience and an even more thrilling co-op experience. Even if there were things you disliked about the first game, Borderlands 2 managed to fix all of that and then some. The writing is some of the best around when it comes to humor. If you thought the first game was amusing, you best hold on to your butt stallions because Borderlands 2 kicks the humorous writing up to an 11. Fortunately, it's not all lighthearted fun and games with the writing because over the course of the story, the humor begins to mix with some menacing and downright evil dialogue. Actions and words that really make you start hating this guy, Handsome Jack, that initially comes across as a bit of a bumbling nobody that you found difficult to take seriously. The best writing in the world wouldn't mean much if it wasn't also wonderfully voice acted. Damian Clark just nails his role as Handsome Jack. Other characters such as Claptrap, the playable Vault Hunters, Tiny Tina, Scooter, Sir Hammerlock, and even more than I have time to name individually are just fantastic. They and their voice actors bring personalized touches to the world of Pandora that will leave a lasting impression on gamers for quite some time. Each character has their own unique strengths and weaknesses. Even those of the same character may not play the same class the same way, which is another positive that the game has going for it. It allows for diversity, not just with the weapon loadouts, but with skills and appearances. It may not seem like it at first, but there is actually a fairly large deal of diversity here when it comes to how you choose to play through the game. In the end, however, it's all about the guns, and it's nice to see that they are just as unique as the people playing the game. Visually, the game returns with its familiar cel-shaded-like visuals from the first game, but improves upon them with some more diverse and detailed environments, and the inclusion of physics support that gives the game a bit more visual flair without sacrificing performance. Sorry, ATI users. The draw of new and powerful loot will satisfy those with an appetite for a Diablo-like experience, but in a first-person shooter environment. The ease of drop-in and drop-out co-op gameplay will satisfy those who are fans of gaming in general. Since its release in mid-September, I've already poured over 125 hours into the game. That's more than I put into The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim and Fallout New Vegas combined. With at least one more major piece of DLC slated for release for Borderlands 2, I don't expect my playing to let up anytime soon. With the near endless supply of weapons to discover, dozens upon dozens of missions and quests, a variety of distinct environments, and the allure of multiple playthroughs with the various classes, Borderlands 2 has the legs to keep it relevant months after its release. And now, if you'll excuse me, I think I'm going to go play some more Borderlands 2. There's still some side quests in Sir Hammerlock's big game hunt that I need to take care of. That, or I might just hit up the slot machines in the game. Man, those things are addictive. We hope you enjoyed this list of TGN's top 10 games of 2012. If you missed anything, be sure to check out our honorable mentions video, and then hit up the first part of the top 10 countdown, which features games numbered 10 through 6. As always, this has been Zips with Total Gaming Network and CS Nation. We'll catch you next time.